The question is the motion be agreed. The Honourable Kyle McGinn.
Regional development is front and centre in my speech, Minister, because there has been a bucket load of work in this space, and particularly from Minister Alana McTiernan. I think since 2017 when we came in, I've got a really good list to go through, but firstly I'll thank the mover of the motion, the Honourable Martin Pritchard. What a really relevant time to be having this discussion. We finally have a federal government that's starting to listen around the voice, the Makarrata, around giving Aboriginal people a voice and learning the truth and moving forward. I think I'm very proud to be a member of the Labor Party when it comes to the First Nations space. I have to say, from a federal perspective and a state perspective, there's only one party that's really showing a moving forward in that space, and that's the Labor Party. And I don't think anyone would deny that. You just have to look at the apology from Kevin Rudd. You just have to look at these procurement policy from over here in the West. You know, before 2017, there was a real lack of engagement in that space, particularly from the government, and particularly from utilising government money. You know, the Honourable Martin Pritchard made a very valuable point. We spend a fortune in the regions. We spend a fortune across this state. You know, road building. That's one of the biggest ones. For me, the road building to me could become the new Ranger program. You know, and we talk about the Ranger program. You know, that is something that this government has championed since 2017. I've been out to Lorna Glen and been to one of the conferences a couple of years ago, and there was over 140 Rangers camping there, and it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. The next morning we got up and he come over and he said, "You white fella, you stay at the camp, we're going off to do law first." And just the feeling of control was totally taken out of our hands and it was put into the hands of First Nations people. And that was one of the greatest experiences I've had since I've been in Parliament, was to feel that whole ownership of what they're doing is their culture, and then merging it into departments such as DBCA and etc. So I will start with the Honourable Alana McTiernan and the work that's happened within regional development. There was nothing done on the dog fence in the last government. There was nothing done. So when Minister Alana McTiernan got in and knew that we had a massive issue with wild dogs, that we wanted to see a resurgence in our sheep here in WA. The figures are just astounding, down from over 100,000 to under, I think, 20,000 sheep, I think, Darren. Well, zero in the Leonora Shire. So when the Minister took this challenge on, it was amazing to see that she came out with a strong view that the contractors on this dog fence would be Aboriginal contractors. And what we've seen across not just the Gascoyne fence, the Goldfields fence, the Esperance fence, there was a real push from the department, from the Minister, not because of a KPI and a tick and flick operation, genuine outcomes, genuine contracts, genuine employment, real deal stuff. The private sector has failed miserably, always does, because when it comes to First Nations people, it's about a KPI tick and flick operation to get a bit of extra bucks out of a training fund, give them a 6-month sugar hit and move them on. And I dare anyone to challenge me on that before 2017, because the mining industry and the oil and gas industry is the biggest one to blame in that space. They go onto country, they do their work, they get out and they barely engage with the culture. The dog fence project, I have to absolutely applaud the Minister, is one of the best projects I've seen in this state. It was solely focused around building Aboriginal businesses. They went from standard to having the fully automated smack-in fence posts. I think it was over 234 kilometres was done in the Murchison area. 500, and that was done solely by Aboriginal contractors. Which is just an unbelievable outcome. And I know down in the Goldfields we had rangers engaged on that as well. And then we go to the Development Commission again, and they were holding in the Goldfields Esperance Development Commission early 2018 some really groundbreaking First Nations leadership programs, getting small businesses in that are trying their hardest. You know, Aboriginal products such as soaps and bush medicines, and then putting them into a real rigorous leadership training course. The amount of feedback, Minister, we had on the ground from Aboriginal small businesses on how great that leadership program was for them was only proven to be even better when we seen Rowena Leslie open up the Aboriginal Chamber of Commerce in the Goldfields. Who would have thought? We now have an Aboriginal Chamber of Commerce that looks after our Indigenous businesses, brings them together and shows the private sector they're here and they mean business. All I ever hear from mining companies and oil and gas companies and the big Ben 10s of the world, oh, it's too hard, oh, we don't know where to go, there's no one-stop shop, there's no hub, there's no this. Well, get off your ass and have a look, because I tell you what, it's out there. It is absolutely out there. And it's all you need to do is put a little bit more effort in, and the bang for your buck that you get back is unbelievable. And one of the projects that I had a pleasure of working on in the last term of government, and has actually come full circle to a bigger project now, was the Meekatharra-Wiluna Road. So the Meekatharra-Wiluna Road was 122 kilometres of unsealed road between, it's 180 all up, but there's 122 that's not sealed, between Wiluna and Meekatharra. About 30 to 40 years there's been advocating to get that section sealed. Now, a really, really tough argument, because, you know, people would come and say, oh, it's tourism value, oh, it's business, etc. But there wasn't really a stack up for it. The reality is there's a lot of migration between Wiluna and Meekatharra. So what we did was, working with the Honourable Alana McTiernan and the Honourable Rita Saffioti, we got together and we said, well, there's some maintenance funding coming up. Let's look at this as solely a First Nations project. It's not about the seal. It's about how many people we can train and how many people we can get on the job during that project. It was meant to be 4 kilometres. We ended up getting 10 kilometres done. Huge kudos to Main Roads. They did an amazing job bringing together stakeholders. The reason that we started doing this was because when I went to Wiluna and asked the Shire, Blacken is one of the mines there, I said, so how many Aboriginal people that live here work at Blacken? They said 1. One person. We had a whole community of unemployed, and 1 person. So Mac Jensen was down at the TAFE there. The TAFE building was abandoned before Mac went back, but it used to have woodwork stuff in there. So hacksaws and all this stuff around building wood. There was no cabinet makers employing in Wiluna. There was no chance of getting a job building a cabinet. So they stripped it out and they turned it into a car building operation. Because one of the biggest things about migration is the cars breaking down on the side of the road. And that brought interest in. And then once the interest come in, the model that Mac was doing was around self-development and growing as a community. So we got the elders in, we've got mining companies in, we got Main Roads in, we had a little bit of money, and we went out and we completed one of the best road projects I think I've ever seen in this state. Because straight after that, the federal government put some money to the state, and the state government made it a priority to put $20 million towards that road seal, because it was a First Nations project, because it had great outcomes. It had over 15 road builders that were living in the local area. So now what's happened, and kudos to Potash Australia, to the Minister for Regional Development, to Mac Jensen, Laverton have now set up, with Mac Jensen, a training school. And this training school is solely around bringing people in, getting their tickets up, getting their driver's licences organised, getting all the things you need to be able to then be employed. And I have to say the outcomes that they're getting there have been absolutely amazing. There are 32 students enrolled there at the moment across the Northern Goldfields. 5 of them are from Leonora, 10 are from Mount Magnet, 5 are from Laverton, 2 from Wiluna and others. So there's been a 100% attendance rate. 100% attendance rate. And I can tell you now, that is not easy to achieve, no matter where you are and who you're trying to educate. That is a really big achievement. So some of the tickets that they have in the operations, they got chainsaw, first aid, bobcat, skid steer, small machinery, dingo, load, unload machinery, industry, WHS, white card. You can see they are all relevant tickets that can get them into a private industry or get them road building. We got the Outback Way with over $500 million going from here to Queensland, from Laverton to Queensland. That should be First Nation road building. That should be packed with First Nations road building. So I'm really excited about that project. I could talk about this motion for hours. The Honourable Martin Pritchard, I barely even touched the top, but I want a huge shout out to regional development, I have to say, from the CEOs in the Commission all the way down through it. there is a huge change in attitude, and it is about engaging First Nations on real, true, actual work.